so much for joining me today. We have ministers Beverly and Skip Little from the First Baptist Church of Glenarden. They are over the marriage ministry, and they are also authors and speakers about everything related to developing and strengthening your marriage. So we're
Exactly.
super, super happy to have them on today. We're just going to chit chat for a few minutes while everyone remembers that we're here during your lunch hour, so feel free
Yeah.
to bring your lunch and join us. But we're going to
Thanks for
chat for
having
the
us.
next 30 seconds or so. But good afternoon.
Well,
Welcome.
good
Hey
afternoon.
Camille, thanks for having
Thank
us.
you. We love being on here with you.
And I'm so grateful. I have known you guys for many years and just have loved and appreciated everything that you have done to support families and families in particular with infertility. Your testimony is super, super powerful and strong. And it's just always been a real privilege to be connected with you, wonderful, wonderful, amazing people. So thank you.
Thank you for having us. And you and Jason are amazing too.
We love you guys.
I kind of like him, you know.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Listen, it kind of helps in marriage, you know?
You gotta like each other. Yeah.
You got to.
So we've continued to stay connected and I tell you what, and this is an unscripted plug, but I will say that the marriage ministry at First Baptist Church of Glenarden is unparalleled, and there's an annual retreat that my husband and I have really enjoyed. Many years we've attended, and it has really just helped us continue to stay connected and plugged in to one another. So, and I didn't even think that I needed it. Honestly, when we first started going, just, oh, we're going to go. Our church is doing this, and after going the first time, we both looked at each other like, wow, we should have been doing this all along. You don't have to be having huge problems to continue to strengthen and get stronger.
Right.
So huge. I'm a huge fan and a follower,
All right.
and appreciate that. I know that you guys.
Thank you.
And so you're right, Camille, because most people think you have to have a problem to connect with marriage ministry. And it's not about coming to marriage ministry because you have a problem, because you need counseling, none of that. It's all about investing in your marriage and making sure, like anything else, if you want to see returns, you got to invest in it. And so that's the thing.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. One of my former neighbors said, when I asked him about what he did to make his grass look so much better than mine, because before mine looked like trash, he said, "Well, I focus on growing grass instead of killing weeds." And I never forgot that, because I just thought, wow, that is kind of a lesson for life. Focus on the things that make us grow and thrive and prosper, instead of always just those things that make us feel bad.
Yeah.
Right. That's good.
That is good. Listen, I'm going to use that illustration the next time we teach.
We ain't focusing on no weeds.
Okay, don't focus on the weeds, grow grass. Focus on the weeds.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to write that. I'm on my phone, but I'm writing that down. Don't focus on the weeds, grow grass. I love it.
That's tweetable right there.
It is.
That's tweetable. I'll take that. And he was like kind of a grumpy old guy, so I think he was just being serious about what he was doing on his lawn. But I've always remembered that and tried to.
That was good.
In my life.
That was good.
We are going to go ahead and get started, and people are going to join us. And then after the program, it will remain on our website. So it will be available basically forever. It'll be on all social media, as well as the paid website. And then you all can tag it, you can link to it, you can share it, so that the people who follow you all can also see that and experience it.
Great.
We're going to go ahead and get started. So once again, I am so pleased to welcome my friends and mentors and just incredible people, ministers Beverly and Skip Little of First Baptist Church of Glenarden. They are over the marriage ministry at First Baptist Church of Glenarden, and they also are speakers. They've written a book. and they are just ministers and people connected to or committed to strengthening marriages. So thank you guys for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Camille, for having us.
Yes, yes. And I know you guys have mugs, and I was really sad to hear that your Coffee with Kate mugs
I know.
were shattered. So, but you have super cute mugs anyway.
There you go.
That's
Mr.
right.
and Mrs.
Mr.
Mug.
and Mrs.
There you go.
And we will talk about what's in your mug. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Now, you all are married. Your first ministry is to married couples, but you also have a ministry supporting families with infertility. Tell me a little bit about why you all decided to get connected to families with infertility. Why is this important to you?
I'm going to let my wife lead off with that answer.
So in the beginning of our marriage, we struggled with infertility. I mean, it was a real challenge. I mean, Skip and I, as soon as we got married, we got right on it and said, let's start our family. And it wasn't happening. 6 months into our marriage, I suffered my first miscarriage, and it was devastating to both of us. And, you know, we kind of looked at each other and we were like, okay, we're doing all the right things, but it just wasn't, you know, happening. And so shortly after that, we tried again. The doctors encouraged us to try again. We tried again. Hey, and the same thing happened. We suffered another miscarriage. By this time, we're devastated, and the doctor doesn't have good news, right? So he's like, you know, the best thing I can tell you is go see a fertility doctor and see if they can help you, because our OB just, you know, he was really out of options for us. And so, you know, discouraged, we went to
a specialist. And so I just want to encourage, especially the men out there, we put a lot of the pressure on our wives to get fixed or to figure out what's going on. But I want to encourage you all that if something's going on, the challenge might be either on your side or on your wife's side. So don't allow your wife to go through the process of going through the fertility thing by herself. You have to be an equal participant with that. And that's one of the ways that I was able to show Beverly great support, is that I wanted to find out what was going on with us, not just with her, and us included, me taking the necessary tests, but also supporting her taking the necessary test, so that the doctors had all the information to determine what was the best approach for us to achieve pregnancy.
And, you know, and I love that, Camille, because what actually happened through that process, you know, when I had to, you know, take off work or take time off, Skip took time off too. And he laid in the bed with me, and we kind of cried together and tried to do what we could to get through the challenge.
Through
right?
the challenge, yes, right. Through the challenge. So I just want to encourage your brother, if your wife is asking you to take a test or to go to a doctor's appointment, just do it with love, knowing that you guys are in this thing together, because she wants to please you, and part of her womanhood is tied to fertility, and you have to let her know whether you all have a baby or not, whether the child is adopted or not, or the fertility works, that she's woman enough for you. And the one way you do that is to support her through you all's journey, not just her journey, but you guys' journey as a couple.
Yes.
I am writing that right now, because that's powerful. We need to affirm one another. Now let's talk a little bit, because that's something that everyone needs to do. But I think that sometimes, well, first of all, going to your house of faith or your house of worship is the first place that many people turn to when they struggle with infertility, because it really can make you question a lot about who you are. Is God mad at me? You know, what have I done to deserve this? And so, but you guys are ministers. So can you talk a little bit about how you all approach this from a faith standpoint, you know, when you struggle with infertility?
Okay.
Yeah. And so what we tell people, and what I had to tell myself when I went through it, you know, is that there are some biblical examples of people who dealt with infertility. You know, Hannah, Sarah, major women of the Bible who dealt with infertility. So this isn't new under the sun. This is something that has happened for many, many hundreds, thousands of years. And so we encourage people first to let them know this is not uncommon, and this isn't something that God doesn't know about. God sees you and God hears you, and he has a plan for your life. And I remember one person telling me, this is just a page in your book, but it's not the end of the story. And so we were just so thrilled in getting that affirmation and those prayers and that encouragement as we went through our time of infertility.
The scripture that comes to mind, I was just trying to find it on my phone. It's James chapter 2. It basically says, faith without works is dead. Listen, brothers, this is for the husbands. You have to engage with your wife. Continue to have sex, make love. It's a wonderful expression between you, God, and your wife. So don't shy away from it. The other thing is that, again, you have to be an active participant. You just can't pray and seek God out, because prayer without the works is I'm telling you, it's going to be, the prayer's going to be amiss, and your work result could be dead. You gotta put some work in it. And so what does work mean? I wasn't going to anybody at that church that didn't go through infertility. So I wasn't talking to. So if you had no problems making babies, I wasn't talking to you. I wanted to talk to the husband or the husband and wife. Me and my wife talk to the couple who struggle with infertility, so that they can give us some hope. I remember talking to one young lady at the church, and we were saying, oh, we went through a miscarriage, and oh, we had to do a D&C, and we were all sorrowful and tearful. Now, she has like 5 or 6 kids right now. But she was like, oh, I went through 3 or 4 D&Cs and 3 or 4 miscarriages, and we had to go through infertility. So it was encouraging, because they kind of normalized the emotional roller coaster ride that you can go through if you didn't have someone else's testimony who's been there, done that, has a T-shirt to say we've survived infertility. So we didn't over super spiritualize it by just praying. We prayed, we put in the work, we sought out people within our church family that had gone through and experienced the challenges of infertility, and those stories gave us hope to keep pushing forward until we got blessed with our 2 children.
Amen.
So, I want you have given so much right there. I would like to just park right here for 2 seconds and unpack a little bit of that. Because what I have heard from so many and seen is that sometimes people aren't aware of others in their church that have struggled with infertility. And when they're not, and they go to people that they may identify as mentors or just people that they respect and admire in their church, and they're given feedback that is a little discouraging, because that person really just doesn't have a background in infertility. And so, they're just told, well, you just need to wait on the Lord. Perhaps you need to pray harder. Perhaps, God is trying to, perhaps you're not meant to be a parent. Perhaps, you just, God is mad at you, and so when they get that type of feedback, it's very discouraging. And so for those families, what thoughts, suggestions, advice do you have for them?
Right. Everybody's not going to be a part of your journey, and for your infertility journey. And so you have to ask God to give you discernment within the first moments of talking to a person or a couple, whether or not they can support you in your journey. That's why the Cade Foundation and other organizations like First Baptist Glenarden, we have a infertility ministry. You have to be very strategic in who you talk to. But if you do the research and you let your marriage ministry leaders know at your church, or even your pastor and your first lady know at your church, they can point you in they should be able to point you in the right direction of resources that make sure that you're talking to the right people. Because you don't want to waste your time talking to the wrong people. Because just like you said, Dr. Camille, you talk to the wrong person, you will become completely discouraged, and you will begin to ask yourself questions. Why are you doing this to me, God? Am I a bad person? Did premarital sex have something to do with it? All this other foolishness that has nothing to do with nothing, because God forgives all of that. We have to get to the science or medical factual evidence as to why you all are not being able to conceive, or if you're able to conceive, you're not be able to carry that, the embryo, baby? I'm getting on second.
Yeah, you're good.
The embryo to 4 9 months of whatever, where you have a baby at the end of the road. So I knew if you talked to me about some foolishness, I was listening to you for about 30 seconds, and if it was at church, I was like, oh, Deacon Johnson wants me to talk to me over here, and I'd get out of that conversation until I got to the right one.
That's right.
The only thing we really wanted, because our pastor and first lady they didn't have any problems with conceiving and making babies. The only thing I wanted our pastor and first lady to do is to pray for our lovemaking, make sure that everything was good on the front end, and we'll let the medical professionals deal with everything on the back end.
And what I love about Pastor Jenkins and First Lady Trina is that they gave us the resources here at the church to be able to minister to people who were going through infertility challenges. And so, and in fact, that's how what was Sisters of Hannah got birthed. And ultimately, Abraham's promise, where we begin to make sure men were included and husbands were included. And that's how the ministry got birthed. And then we took the ministry to another level by partnering with you, Dr. Camille, with the Cave Foundation. And that allowed people to have more awareness, come together, sit into a seminar where there were others struggling, hear testimonies of others. That's the key too, hearing testimonies from other people and in a space where you can feel comfortable. And that's what we did when we partnered with you guys.
I got so much right here. My fingers can't move fast enough to type that in. So one way to get friends, family, etc., who don't understand infertility, or they really just don't have any understanding, any knowledge of it. One way to get them to support is ask them to pray for your lovemaking, your ability to stay connected with one another, just your marriage.
Right.
That's great, because I think sometimes people want to be engaged, but not knowing how to, it's kind of a destructive form of engagement. So
yes,
asking for prayer for those things is always powerful and really, really important. So I'm gonna add that.
And then the other thing is ask, if they haven't gone through it, do you know of a couple that's gone through infertility? And can you point me in the direction of that person? And don't be afraid to say, hey, in love, you guys just don't get it in a loving way. I mean, so if you can, if after you pray for me, do you know of a couple in your circle of influence that's dealt with infertility? Can you point me in that direction as well? And it really helped us, because we ended up identifying several people within our church and our family structure that really helped us get through the season of infertility. And we didn't feel isolated, and we didn't feel alone, like God was singling us out for this dry season, that we're the only one that went through it. And because once we started hearing other people's testimonies, I mean, it really took a burden off us.
And it can be a lonely space, right, when you're going through it, because most people seemingly aren't dealing with infertility. And you seem like you've been the one that's sort of been plucked out. But I want to encourage women and encourage people who are listening today to remember that God has a special plan for those who deal with infertility. It's an amazing plan. Right. I know you don't feel that way, or you may feel, like that's not going to happen for you. But I'm telling you, everybody I know, God has a special plan for you.
Okay, so I want to get so much. Lovingly tell people, what are we lovingly telling them?
You're lovingly telling them that because see, sometimes people want to get into the details.
Yes.
They were telling me, you need to relax, Skip. Don't put so much pressure on one another. Go take a vacation. Just let things happen naturally. You can tell that to me one time, but you can't tell that to me twice.
Right.
So when it came to the second time, I would say, Uncle Jojo, I appreciate all the words of wisdom you've given me. But how you can really help me out right now is, do you know of somebody who's gone through infertility?
Yes.
If they said no, then I was like, okay, then can you pray that you come across somebody, you can point in my direction, because that's the best way that you can help me. And that's how I would lovingly do it. But oftentimes, you'd be surprised in your own family circle, somebody quietly went through it, but you never knew they went through it. So you have to really put it out there. And that's what 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, my grace is sufficient, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. So gladly I will boast in my infirmities, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. I didn't have any problem, or Beverly didn't have any problem sharing our struggle with infertility, because we wanted God's grace to rest upon it. And when we did that, that's when we got exposed to so many couples who had similar testimonies of infertility. We got exposed to the couples within our own church that were going through it. And we got exposed to the Cave Foundation. We wouldn't have never met you if we hadn't gone through this infertility thing ourselves. So it's just been a blessing sharing our infertility struggles so that God's grace can bless those
That's
relationships and point us in the right direction of resources so that we can have the family that God wanted us to have.
Amen.
Wow, powerful. I love it. So don't be afraid to tell them, ask them to lovingly take a step back, but please, if you can, just direct me to someone who may have experienced it. And if you haven't yet met someone,
pray for that person to come across your path so that you can put them
and
in
pray
our
for
path.
and pray for us as a couple. Tell them your family member, pray for us as a couple so that we stay connected, and God will continue to bless our efforts in trying to build a family.
Right. Because sometimes our family members and friends, the people we have access to, they're just the vehicle in which God points us to the next relationship. And so if they don't have any constructive advice, I mean, I wouldn't tell them that they have constructive advice. I just say, hey, listen, you know what, Uncle Jojo, do you know if anybody's gone through infertility too? If they say no, okay, well, can you pray that God brings somebody across your path so that you can connect them to me? Or you pray for me that somebody will come across me in Beverly's path that gone through infertility. Which you want to be connected with other people who've gone through the infertility struggle.
Right.
yes, that is exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay, this is so good. All right, so how did the infertility struggle? There's so much. I'm like reading through here, and
I'm telling my wife to smile.
I'm like,
she's looking so. I said, I'll be dejected looking at her face.
I was anxiously waiting. He's like, smile.
Wow, can you smile with a smile on it? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Camille.
Well, we're sorry.
No, you guys look amazing as usual. But we've gone through so much, so some of my notes are kind of irrelevant at this point. So tell me, how did this journey affect your path and your ministry, or did it affect kind of where you are today?
Definitely.
So one of the things we did was we spent a lot of time with God, with his word, individually as just a child of God, son and daughter of Christ, and then as a couple. And then before God blessed us with our first child, what God showed me was if you never have a child, if fertility didn't work, if adoption didn't work, if nothing worked, then I want you to be comfortable and content serving me. And so before the children came, we started to make plans on how we could serve the Lord, how we could go on missions trips. And we didn't need anybody to give us money because the money we would have for children can go to the $2,000 to Haiti or the $1,500 to South Africa or whatever. We started figuring out more ways to serve families. Even though we didn't have children ourselves, God began to show us more ways to serve families right here at First Baptist Church, Glen Arden, through our family life department. So we began to look at not having children as being freed up to completely serve Christ as a couple together.
But more importantly, it showed us options.
Right.
So, while we were struggling with infertility, what are our other options? Because we knew we had a deep desire in our hearts to build a family.
Right.
But so we had to kind of take a look at what other things are out there. Well, that opened up our eyes to adoption.
Right.
That opened up our eyes to fostering.
Right.
That opened our eyes up to other ways to really build our family.
And listen, and especially in the African American community, not to isolate ourselves, but you might have a child in your own family that needs to be adopted.
That's right.
Or needs to be taken in. It could be a niece,
right.
It could be a nephew, it could be a sibling, a younger sibling.
Right.
It could be a cousin, it could be somebody within your own family dynamic that needs the love and support of a parent.
Amen.
The one thing we got from it is we had to be open to the will of God, to how he created the family, our family, not how we had in our preconceived minds how we wanted to be created. It was all on his timing, and he was going to send the children his way.
That's right. Amen.
So something else that I've seen people talk about is adoption.
Right.
They are concerned. They don't, they want a kid that is genetically related. And I've just heard a number of people say things about just concern about adoption. We don't know what the baby's gonna look like? Can I love this child if I don't birth this child? And adoption is a really big thing in the church. I mean, Jesus was adopted. There are adoption is, but there's still, I think, a lot of stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yes, you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So, you do kind of, those things do come across your mind. Is the kid going to be okay? Are there, going to be challenges? All those things come across your mind. But in the end of the day, God created us all. And if he speaks to your heart and tells you that this is something that he wants you to do, without question, he will make sure that the child is where the child needs to be and you're connected with them. I love the fact that God adopted us into his family. The Jews were the chosen people, but we as Gentiles have been adopted into the family of Christ. And so now we have the same rights and privileges. And so I love the fact that God uses that whole scenario to show us that adoption is just fine, and adoption is essentially what God did for us.
Right.
And so I just love that.
I love that too. And see, we adopted our first son, Timothy. We normally don't share it. People ask for who got adopted. We always act like we don't know who, because it doesn't make a difference.
Right, because they can't figure out which one of our kids got adopted.
Right, because one child looks more like me and one child looks more like Beverly, so it's not even worth figuring out. But because we're on this program right now, we want to remove the stigma of adoption. My son looked in the mirror the other day and says, "Dad, I don't look like you," And I said, "You know what? You do look like me." He says, "No, you're light and I'm dark, and you don't have any hair and I have hair, and you got light brown eyes, I got dark brown eyes." I said, "We look alike." He says, he kept looking. He says, "But we don't look alike." I said, "We do." And so he was looking in the mirror and he's looking at me like I was crazy. He says, "Well, Dad, what do you see?" I see, "I'm a child of God. You a child of God. We're both children of God. So we're both adopted." You know what I mean? It's just,
it's just exciting.
It's just exciting. You got ears, eyes. I got ears, eyes. You have blood. I got blood. And I'm going to tell you, family, it's nothing more rewarding when the judge tells you, and we had a female judge and she went down through all these things. I wish I can get the language. I've been looking for the language. And it says, at the end, she says, "You and your child will experience all the rights and privileges as though that child just came from you." And she hit that gravel, boom, 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 and boom. I mean, it was the best feeling in the world. So don't let people trick you into believing that they have to look like you or talk like you. What you want them to inherit from you is you both being a child of God and you being lovers of Jesus Christ. That's what you want. And I'm telling you, nobody can tell me my son or my daughter, not my children, because both of them came from both me and Beverly.
Amen.
And God allowed it. Amen.
Amen. And our story is our oldest was adopted, but then 4 months later I got pregnant, and that's how we had our second.
Right.
That's how we had our second child. And I believe God opened my womb because he wanted Timothy, which is our oldest son that we adopted, to be a part of our family.
Right.
And it was at that point that I immediately got pregnant after 3 miscarriages, actually. And so God saw fit to bless us with both of those children. They both were born in July and are exactly 12 months apart with shy of a week. So
right.
God had a plan.
Right.
Obviously.
And some couples will get tricked out of family because you want to define family how you want to define family. You have to be open to the will of God. And if he says he wants you to adopt, he's going to make that thing happen. We adopted our son in 3 months. It was in record time. So God will let you know whether or not he wants you to adopt, whether you end up going before the judge and he says, or she says, you now have all the rights and privileges of a father and a son, or a mother and a son, or a mother and a daughter, or father and daughter. And they strike that gravel down. You know that's the will of God. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Yeah, so it's exciting. And just to the women who think that you won't feel the same, it is exactly the same. The natural child, me and Skip being parents of a natural birth child and an adopted child, the love is the same. Yes. There is absolutely no difference. Right.
And some people, again, get tricked out of it. So you miss the whole family dynamic because you knew you were having problems at 30. You knew you were having problems at 40. But now at 50, you maybe wanted to start to adopt. And God, the devil tricked you out of 20 years of parenting because you were being selfish and trying to play God and to determine how you were going to create the family.
So hear the voice of God and get God's direction on what you need to do and when you need to do so that you can receive God's blessing.
And that's why you have to talk to the right people. The pastor are the right people. The first lady are the right people. The marriage ministry leaders are the right people. People who have gone through infertility challenges, adoption challenges. You have to talk to the right people.
And the Cade Foundation.
And the Cade Foundation. Talk to the right people.
Yes.
Because there's hope at the end of this family making tunnel. Come on,
Yes.
Hey, you know what? Thank you. And I think that I got one question and then we're going to finish. We are running a few minutes over, but this conversation is so rich that if you will just give me the privilege of another 2 minutes of your time.
Sure.
We are unpacking a whole lot, and hopefully a lot of people are listening and hearing it with their heart, not just with their head.
Yes.
And going to listen to what God has to say to them, not what cousin whoever or
right.
such and such. You know, let's listen to what God has to say to you about building your family. We do have one question from someone. What can other churches do to support their members going through infertility if they do not have an infertility ministry like Sisters of Hannah?
Okay.
Sure. Our infertility ministry here at First Baptist is open to anyone. We are a community-based church. We support our members, of course, but certainly non-members are welcome to participate in our meetings. We have seminars with the Cade Foundation. We have one coming up in September, so look on the Cade Foundation's website as well as the FBCG website when it gets closer to that time frame, and you're welcome to come to the seminar. At the seminar, we give you a wealth of information on infertility, adoption, fostering, all of those things. We provide you with information on. So certainly you are welcome to be a part of what we're doing here at First Baptist Church of Glenarden.
Right.
That's outstanding. And if your church is someplace not local, I know that Minister Beverly and Skip they have served as fantastic resources to people, not just in Glenarden, but all over the place. So are you all open to sharing resources, giving?
Yes.
I don't know our contact information. Beverly has it.
So you can shoot us an email.
Shoot us an email.
At skipandbeverly@gmail.com, and we can provide you with information.
Or you can call us at the church at First Baptist Church Glenarden. We're in Glenarden, Maryland, and that number is 301-773-3600, and my extension is 316, and Beverly's extension is 317. Give us a call, and we can help you identify resources. You know, if those resources are outside the DMV, whether it's in Cincinnati, Ohio, Los Angeles, California, or down on Orlando, Florida, we can help you identify the resources within your area to get help that you need, to get the support that you need, so you can have the family that God wants you to have.
Amen.
And then one last question, and then we're gonna finish up. Where can you find info about joining the Sisters of Hannah?
Yes.
Well, Sisters of Hannah has been sort of merged with Abraham's Promise. So now Sisters of Hannah kind of doesn't exist, but the resources and the support still exist for all of that. So so you just give us a call here at the church, same number, and we can point you in the right direction.
All right. So on behalf of the Cade Foundation, I want to thank you for serving and for speaking and for sharing today. You guys, of course, are amazing, but the information you shared today, I think, is really going to help change lives, transform, and help couples feel more connected to one another, and most importantly, connected to the Lord.
Amen.
So I want to reiterate, there is a program coming up in collaboration with the Abraham's Promise at First Baptist Church of Glenarden and the Cade Foundation in September. And you can learn more about that on both the Cade Foundation website, www.cadefoundation.org, as well as the First Baptist Church of Glenarden website, fbcg.org, correct?
No, it's fbcglenarden.org. www.fbcglenarden.org.
And that website is massive. There are lots of ministries for the Abraham's Promise ministry to get more information. Also, a quick reminder, we have an important event coming up in June, the Race for the Family.
Yes. Exciting!
So it's going to be at the Maryland Zoo, and we're going to be doing a 5K walk, a 1 mile, 1.5-mile family fun walk, and it's really a great opportunity to plug in and see that you are part of this massive community, and there are all these resources that are waiting for you to just take advantage. So please join us, and for more information, you can go to www.raceforthefamily.com or go to capefoundation.org. So on that note, I know we all have good stuff in our mugs.
Yes, we do. Here's to the family and to the Cape Foundation and FBCG. Thank you, Dr. Camille. You were great.
And tell me really quick, what's in your mug?
What's in it? My wife made it. It's like ginger honey.
Green tea and ginger honey crystals.
It's real good.
Yours is fabulous. Okay, I've got hot chocolate.
Okay.
I cheated because I have my Keurig. But there is something in my mug. So
all right, good stuff.
you guys have a fabulous afternoon.
Thank you, Dr. Camille. Love you guys. Love you, Cape Foundation.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.